Christmas dinner is canceled. Stay safe, sweetheart. There's an ice storm coming." That was the text my mom sent me at 7:42 a.m. on Christmas morning. I remember staring at it for a moment, my thumb hovering over the screen, blinking in the soft light of my Nashville apartment. It was disappointing, sure, but I understood. Nashville winters can get unpredictable sometimes. They turn sidewalks into ice rinks and turn country roads into skating hazards. So I told myself, safety first, even if it meant spending Christmas alone. I curled up on my couch with a blanket, made myself a too-sweet mug of hot chocolate, and turned on the same old holiday movies I watched every year. I tried not to feel the sting of solitude too deeply. After all, I was used to being the quiet one, the background character in a family of loud personalities and curated traditions. What I didn't know that morning, what I couldn't have imagined, was that a single photo posted to social media would unravel decades of deception. That the lie they told me in a single line of text would expose everything I thought I understood about my family. It was around 3:07 p.m. when it happened. I was scrolling through Instagram mindlessly when my thumb froze mid-swipe. My heart skipped. There it was, a fresh post from my cousin Nina, perfectly filtered and casually cruel. Perfect family Christmas at Anna's, so blessed to have everyone together. Your traditions, family first. I stared at it, breath caught in my throat. The photo showed everyone, my mom, dad, aunts, uncles, cousins, even grandma, gathered around Anna's gleaming mahogany dining table. Everyone was smiling, laughing, clinking glasses and matching Christmas pajamas. And Anna, my sister, my parents' golden child, stood at the center, radiant in red, a glass of wine in hand like she was hosting some Hallmark movie shoot. I blinked, thinking maybe the photo was old. Maybe it was last year. Maybe they were reposting memories. But no, the timestamp was today, and the sunlight filtering through the windows, the crystal blue sky in the background, not a trace of snow, not a flake of ice. There was no storm. My blood ran cold. I clicked on Nina's profile. More posts, more proof. Dad carving the turkey, Mom arranging her signature peppermint cookies, my baby cousins unwrapping presents while someone laughed behind the camera. Even the dog had a reindeer sweater on. And in every frame, something was missing me. They had lied. They had faked an emergency to keep me away. And they didn't just exclude me, they covered it with a group effort, a coordinated story. Not a single soul in that room had spoken up. Not one person said, "Wait, where's Catherine?" I sat frozen on the couch, phone shaking in my hand. Suddenly, every canceled family brunch, every "oh, we forgot to loop you in," every plans changed, last-minute excuse came flooding back with venomous clarity. This wasn't the first time. It was just the first time I caught them red-handed, and that was when something in me cracked, not in a dramatic, screaming kind of way. No, this was quiet, dangerous, like ice splitting under your feet. I went to my laptop, pulled up the photos. I stared at them again and again. My own mother's text still there unread. Everyone staying home due to the ice storm. Except everyone wasn't. Just me. My phone buzzed. My mother. Her contact photo flashed like a joke, a happy picture of the two of us taken years ago when I still believed her love was unconditional. I answered. "Hi, honey," she said, that performative warmth in her voice. "Hope you had a nice, quiet Christmas. We missed you. We missed you." The gall of it. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. My voice didn't even shake. "Really," I said. "Because Nina's post says otherwise. You had quite the gathering at Anna's." There was silence on the other end. A long, dragging silence like the seconds before a car crash. "Oh, well, she finally stammered it. It came together last minute. You know how Anna is, and well, you're always so quiet at gatherings. You make people uncomfortable." She said it like she was doing me a favor. Like loneliness on Christmas was a kindness. We just thought... She paused, searching for footing. "We thought it'd be better for everyone. You thought lying to me, making me spend Christmas alone, was better for everyone I asked. My voice dropped to a whisper. How many other times have you done this? More silence. Then Catherine, you're being oversensitive. This is exactly why you exclude me, I snapped. Why Anna gets to be the princess and I get a text like an afterthought. That's not fair, she said sharply. We love you both equally. But Anna makes more of an effort. You're always busy with work. Busy with work. I laughed bitterly. You mean the work that helped pay your mortgage, or the time I took 3 weeks off to care for Dad after surgery while Anna was on a yoga retreat? I heard her exhale slowly, her tone tightening like a leash. If you're going to be like this, maybe we need space. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable. She hung up. And just like that, my childhood ended 12 years too late. After the call ended, I didn't cry. I didn't throw my phone or scream into a pillow like someone in a drama movie. I just sat there silent, staring at the blank TV screen that had dimmed into reflection. And in that silence, the memories came not like waves, but like a riptide pulling me backward through years I hadn't fully processed. I wasn't just excluded from Christmas. I had been excluded for years. I just never had the evidence before. Growing up, I had always been the quiet one. That was my label. Catherine, the dependable, serious, invisible one. Meanwhile, Anna, 2 years younger, was the family darling. She was bright, loud, dramatic, the kind of person who filled a room with chaos and charm. When she painted murals on the garage wall, my parents called her creative. When I drew in sketchbooks, they said I needed to focus on real subjects. When I got straight A's, I was told not to brag. When Anna got a C in math and cried about it, they baked her brownies. I was 16 when I got my first job receptionist at a local dental clinic. I saved half of every paycheck. When Anna turned 16, they gave her a brand new car with a ribbon on it. I still remember Mom's words. She just has such a free spirit. It wouldn't be fair to burden her with a job yet. And still, I didn't question it. I told myself families just had different dynamics. I was the responsible one. Anna was the fun one. That's just how it was. In college, I got a partial scholarship for accounting at Vanderbilt. I had secretly applied to art schools, RSD SCAD, but when the acceptance letters came, Mom sat me down. Art is sweet honey, she said gently, but it's not a career. You're too smart to waste your time on something like that. I let her talk me out of my dream. I buried my sketchbooks and enrolled in accounting, telling myself I'd make them proud. Anna, meanwhile, dropped out of college her sophomore year to find herself. My parents called it brave. And when she returned from Costa Rica 6 months later, claiming she was going to be a yoga instructor, they remodeled the guest house for her to launch her business. Guess who helped with the budget planning, marketing, and web design for her first retreat? Me. Guess who they thanked at the family party? Not me. But even that wasn't the tipping point. No, I still told myself family first family, always. 3 years ago, Dad needed surgery, a serious one. I took 3 weeks off work, unpaid leave to move back into the house, cook, clean, manage his meds, drive him to follow-up appointments. Anna, she visited once, took a few selfies for Instagram, then left for a healing retreat in Sedona. Weeks later, at a family BBQ, I overheard my mom telling Aunt Linda how grateful they were for Anna's support during Dad's recovery. She just has such a comforting energy, she said with a dreamy smile. Catherine was here too, but you know how she gets so tense, always acting like a nurse instead of a daughter. That stung. But the worst was last Thanksgiving. I had spent hours helping Mom prep chopping seasoning, running to the store twice. When everyone sat down to eat, she raised a glass and smiled proudly. Let's all thank Anna, she beamed. She did everything this year. Anna didn't correct her. She just smiled and raised her wine. And I just sat there, swallowed hard, smiled faintly. That was my role. The invisible workhorse. Even when Anna announced she'd host Christmas this year, I offered to help. She brushed me off with a polite smile. I've got it handled. I just really want this to be perfect. And I idiot that I was believed it was just a preference, not a message. But it had always been a message, that I was not part of the picture. That my quiet effort, my late nights doing taxes, my thousands of dollars helping with bills, my sacrifices, they were invisible, expected, uncelebrated. Whereas Anna's smallest gestures were spotlighted like the second coming of a Hallmark heroine. The difference between us wasn't just personality, it was permission. She was allowed to be loved, celebrated, forgiven. I was expected to be useful, silent, and satisfied with crumbs. That Christmas lie broke something in me, but it also revealed something I should have seen long ago. I had been conditioned to believe that love had to be earned, and even then, maybe it wouldn't be given. I wasn't just forgotten. I was actively excluded. And now, for the first time in my adult life, I saw it for what it was, a pattern of emotional manipulation disguised as family tradition. I couldn't unsee it anymore. Once that pattern clicked into place, once I saw how deeply they'd been willing to deceive me just to maintain their perfect holiday fantasy, it became impossible to pretend it didn't matter. It wasn't one bad Christmas. It was every birthday party I wasn't invited to, every, oh, you must have missed the group text moment, every family gathering that somehow always excluded me, followed by a guilt-laced phone call to make sure I stayed compliant. But not anymore. I sat down at my laptop, hands trembling, not from anger, but from decades of words finally rushing to the surface. And I wrote, not a rant, not a scream, just the plain, devastating truth. Subject line, I know what you did. I've seen the photos from Christmas dinner. I wrote the line slowly, deliberately. The dinner, I was told, was canceled due to an ice storm that never happened. Then I told them what they needed to hear. You didn't just exclude me. You fabricated an emergency. You coordinated a lie. You made me believe I was alone while you all posed for group photos in matching pajamas. I attached screenshots, Mom's text telling me to stay home, Instagram posts from Nina, Facebook tags from my Aunt Debbie, captions like, so blessed to be with family, as if I weren't flesh and blood. And then I said what I should have said years ago. This wasn't an oversight. This was cruelty dressed up as tradition, and I'm done pretending it's okay. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I sat back and waited. The first response came within minutes. Aunt Marie. We thought you knew the plans had changed. It wasn't deliberate. A lie. Uncle Robert chimed in. This seems like an overreaction. We love you, Catherine, but drama like this ruins family time. Cousin Nina, the one who accidentally outed them, deleted all the Christmas posts and messaged me privately. You're causing unnecessary tension. What's done is done. Then came Anna's message. A long, self-important email about how she tried to make Christmas special, how I always bring down the mood, and how everyone knew I'd make things awkward, so it was best I wasn't there. She actually wrote, I did this for you. You clearly don't enjoy family time anyway. But it was my parents' response that sealed everything. They didn't apologize. They went on the offensive. My mother called mutual friends, spinning a story that I was having a stress breakdown, that I was lashing out over a misunderstanding. My father sent me a cold, formal email about airing private family matters, how it was unacceptable to shame the family publicly. Then Anna texted me again, You've really done it now. Mom's crying. Everyone's upset. And it's all because you couldn't just let it go. This is exactly why we didn't want you at Christmas. That line stopped me cold. This is exactly why we didn't want you at Christmas. No more pretending it was a misunderstanding. No more doubt. They had excluded me because it was easier for them. I didn't fit their curated version of family joy. I was the wrong kind of daughter, the one who worked too hard, gave too much, asked too few questions. And now that I had stopped pretending, they were furious, not because I was wrong, but because I was no longer controllable. In the weeks that followed, the gaslighting turned into sabotage. My mother showed up at my office unannounced, causing a scene in the lobby and demanding to speak to me about this nonsense. My boss gently escorted her out. Anna posted vague, toxic people quotes on social media hashtags like, "One, protect your peace," and "Chow family is more than blood," framing herself as the victim. My father called me one evening and said sternly, "Keep this up and you can forget about being included in the will." I nearly laughed. He spoke as if I still cared about his scraps of affection, as if I hadn't already spent years offering support with no strings attached, as if there was anything left to lose. The thing is, those threats, the manipulation, they didn't work anymore. If anything, they confirmed what I'd finally begun to believe: I was never the problem. The moment I stopped begging for scraps, they treated me like the enemy, not because I was wrong, but because I'd broken the cycle. And yet, there was one thing I still didn't understand. Why now? Why this Christmas? What made them go from subtle exclusion to outright deception? The answer came unexpectedly. A week after I sent the email, I received a message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Rachel, a retired family friend, once my parents' financial advisor before she stepped back from the drama, as she once put it. "Catherine, I saw what's happening on social media. There's something you need to know. Can we meet?" I hesitated, but my gut told me this wasn't gossip. This was something deeper, and I had no idea how much my world was about to shift. The cafe Rachel picked was quiet, almost too quiet, one of those tucked-away spots downtown, with old jazz playing and cinnamon hanging in the air. I got there early, partly to avoid attention, partly because I felt like the ground beneath my life was shifting, and I didn't want to be late for the tremor. Rachel arrived right on time, wrapped in her signature gray shawl eyes, scanning nervously before she spotted me. She didn't hug me. She just sat down slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she placed a manila envelope between us. "I've carried the guilt for too long," she said softly. My stomach turned. I opened the envelope and pulled out the first few pages: bank records, signed letters, real estate filings, legal documents. My name was everywhere, but so was Anna's. Dates, transfers, property sales, and then the trust document. According to it, my grandfather, my mom's father, had left me a substantial inheritance when he passed, almost $300,000, specifically earmarked for my education, my future, and starting her life on her terms. Rachel's voice was almost a whisper. "Your father was named trustee. The money was meant for you once you turned 25. I stared at her. "I never saw a penny." She nodded. "Because he didn't give it to you. He transferred it into Anna's accounts over several years, slowly, strategically. He told me, he said you were already doing well and that Anna needed a leg up." My vision blurred. My throat closed. All those late nights working during college. All those loan payments I was still making. The side jobs, the sacrifices, the nights I said no to dinner because I couldn't afford it. They watched me drown while holding my life raft in their hands. Rachel continued, "There's more. Your grandfather left 2 properties, one near Knoxville, the other in East Nashville. They were to be split equally between you and Anna." I laughed bitterly. "I've never owned a house." Rachel nodded again, visibly uncomfortable. "Your parents sold both properties 5 years ago, using the power of attorney you signed when you were 18, remember? They said it was for medical emergencies." I remembered. I had signed it at the kitchen table in my pajamas, half listening to my mother reassure me, "Just routine paperwork, honey. Every adult does this eventually." But that document had given them sweeping control over my finances, and they used it, all of it. They sold the properties, pocketed the cash, then slowly drained your inheritance to fund Anna's ventures, her yoga studio, her Bali retreats, her failed essential oils company. "It's all here," Rachel said, tapping the envelope. "Transfers from your trust, direct to her personal and business accounts." I felt like I was underwater. "I'm so sorry," Rachel said, her voice cracking. "I should have said something sooner, but your father threatened legal action. And honestly, I thought maybe you knew. That you agreed. I never knew I whispered." Rachel exhaled deeply. "I believe you now, and I want you to know everything they did. It's not just unethical, it's illegal. Fraud, misappropriation, abuse of fiduciary duty. If you wanted to pursue it—" Her voice trailed off. I already knew what she was saying. I was an accountant. I had spent years tracking corporate fraud building forensic ledgers for audits. If anyone was equipped to follow the money trail, it was me. Only this time. The crime scene was my own family. "Why now?" I asked, finally. "Why are you coming forward now?" Rachel looked me dead in the eyes. "Because I saw your mother's Facebook posts. She's telling everyone you're unstable, ungrateful, that you're lashing out over some imagined slight. And I thought, no, this girl has been robbed, and now they're trying to ruin her before she discovers the truth." I nodded slowly. "They're panicking." Rachel leaned in. "And you need to be prepared because they're going to fight like hell to protect their version of the story. But Catherine, you have the truth, and you have proof. That's more than most people get." I left the cafe with the envelope clutched tight like a detonator waiting to go off. When I got home, I spread everything across my kitchen table and started building a case, not just emotionally, but legally. I created a ledger of every transfer, every missing dollar, every unauthorized property sale. I hired an estate fraud attorney, Sarah Chen, recommended by a client of mine. A pit bull in heels. She looked over the documents for less than 10 minutes before she spoke. "This isn't just messy family drama," she said. "This is criminal. We can file civil charges press for restitution, even refer it to the DA for prosecution. Do you want to go scorched earth?" I didn't answer right away. It wasn't about revenge, not anymore. It was about truth and freedom. But first I wanted to give them a chance. One last moment to face what they had done and make it right. So I arranged a family meeting at my apartment. I told them I wanted to talk to resolve things to move forward. And like clockwork, they accepted eager, smug, probably believing I was ready to crawl back and beg for inclusion. They had no idea I had fire in my hands. Saturday morning, I woke up before sunrise. Not out of nerves, out of clarity. For the first time in my life, I wasn't walking into a family event as the forgotten one. I wasn't bringing my silence or my guilt or my lifelong need for their approval. I was bringing facts, receipts, truth. I set my dining table with quiet precision, 3 neat folders, one for each of them, Mom, Dad, Anna. Inside the bank statements, trust paperwork, property sale documents, every unauthorized transaction they'd orchestrated using my name. Each folder also contained a letter from Sarah, my attorney, outlining 2 clear options. Option A, return the remaining funds. Sign a written confession admitting their actions. Option B, face formal civil and criminal proceedings. No gray area, no escape hatch. By the time the doorbell rang, I was seated at the table, coffee in hand, the picture of calm. Not because I wasn't angry, but because I was done begging for understanding. They arrived as a unit. Mom in a pastel blazer like she was attending a brunch. Dad wearing his favorite sports jacket, the one he used to call his business armor. Anna looked like she'd just walked off a meditation app, had loose curls, neutral tones, full of smug serenity. They sat down across from me, their energy casual, controlled, as if they believed this was a peace summit and they were already the victors. My mother smiled. "Catherine, sweetheart, we're glad you called. It's time we all move past this silly." I slid the folders across the table. The sound of paper shuffling was the only noise for a long beat. My father opened his first eyes, scanning. His face turned a shade paler with every line. Anna frowned. "What is this evidence?" I said flatly. "Of what you did to me. Of what you stole. Of the trust you violated." Anna's hands trembled as she flipped through pages. "This is ridiculous," my mother hissed. "You're accusing us, your family, of theft." I looked her square in the eye. "No, I'm proving it." Dad found his voice first. "You had no right to get these documents." "I had every right," I snapped. "It was my inheritance, my properties. You used my signature, forged my consent, and rerouted my future into Anna's luxury yoga vacations." Anna burst out. "I didn't know." "They told me it was their savings." I tapped a highlighted transaction in her folder. "Funny, because these are labeled Trust Transfer, Catherine. And they go directly into your account, monthly, for years." She flushed scarlet. "I didn't read the labels. You cashed them." My mother tried to shift tactics, even if some things were misunderstood, dragging lawyers into this. "Is that who you are now?" "No," I said coldly, "but it's who you made me become." She leaned forward, voice trembling with frustration. "What will people say, Catherine? What will the community think if you do this?" I leaned forward too. "Maybe they'll ask why you spent 15 years robbing your daughter while calling her selfish. Maybe they'll ask why Anna's wellness empire was built on stolen money. Maybe they'll wonder how a family so obsessed with appearances got unmasked by a spreadsheet." My dad slammed his folder shut. "We're leaving. This is blackmail." "No," I said evenly. "This is choice. You have 48 hours to either confess and repay what remains or face full legal consequences. Sarah's letter outlines everything, and Rachel is prepared to testify, along with the notarized records she kept." Anna stood up her chair, screeching backward. "You're blowing up the family for money." I laughed, a bitter, weary sound. "You blew up the family when you helped yourselves to my future and told yourselves I wouldn't notice. Or maybe that I wouldn't fight back." They left in a scramble. My father dragging my mother out by the arm. Anna sobbing, accusing me with her eyes. By noon, my phone was buzzing off the hook. Uncle Robert, Aunt Marie, Nina. Every message some variation of "you're tearing the family apart." But this time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt something close to peace. That night, I called Sarah. "They'll try to hide it. Move money, destroy documents," I said. Sarah didn't hesitate. "Already filed preemptively. We're ahead of them." We were. And we had the paper trail to prove it. The next 48 hours passed in eerie quiet, and then the silence broke. My father started liquidating old accounts. My mother attempted to pressure Rachel into changing her story. Anna posted a vague story about being betrayed by someone she once trusted. They didn't sign the confession. They didn't repay a cent. They chose pride. So I chose action. I filed the full complaint. Sarah submitted everything to the local authorities. The DA reviewed the trust abuse power of attorney manipulation and inheritance embezzlement. Within 24 hours, police arrived with search warrants. My parents' home was searched. My father was removed from his office in handcuffs for trust violation and wire fraud. Anna's yoga studio, funded with misappropriated funds, was seized. And me, I sat in my office, watching the headlines roll across my phone. Prominent local couple investigated in inheritance fraud case. The family group chat went eerily quiet. Then unexpectedly, a message from Rachel. "You did the right thing. Your grandfather would be proud." I didn't respond right away. I just looked out the window. It was snowing. Real snow. Not the fake kind you use to cover lies. 1 year later, I sat by the window of my new home in Denver, a blanket draped over my legs, snow falling like soft punctuation on the glass. There was no Christmas tree this year, no garland, no turkey in the oven, but there was warmth. There was stillness. There was me, whole steady, and for the first time in my life, free from performance. The legal case had wrapped up months earlier. My parents took plea deals. They were ordered to pay restitution for what they hadn't already squandered. The judge had called their actions a calculated betrayal of fiduciary and emotional trust. That phrase lived rent-free in my mind, not out of bitterness, but because it was the first time someone officially recognized what I had lived through. Anna's yoga brand crumbled. Her carefully curated online persona lost credibility overnight. The wellness influencer who once waxed poetic about truth and alignment now worked quietly as a receptionist at a downtown real estate firm. I didn't follow her updates, but I knew enough to say this karma doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just changes your job title and stops clapping when you enter the room. As for my extended family, silence. The relatives who once gushed over Anna's radiant energy unfollowed me without a word. No birthday texts, no check-ins, no half-hearted olive branches. And you know what I didn't miss them. What I had, instead, were the people I chose. Co-workers who sent hot chocolate after court hearings. A neighbor who helped me hang shelves in my new apartment. Even a few cousins distant but thoughtful who messaged me in private to say they'd always known something wasn't right. They'd just never had the courage to speak up. "I see you now," one of them wrote, "and I'm sorry it took this long." The words didn't fix the past, but they softened the edges of it. Rachel came to visit last week. She brought an old photo album she'd found while cleaning out her office, one my grandfather had made for me. Inside were Polaroids I hadn't seen in decades, me with tangled curls and grass-stained knees, fishing beside him at the lake, painting rocks, eating popsicles under the sun. In one photo, I'm showing him a stick figure drawing of a house. He's beaming. "He always said you were the strong one," Rachel told me, sipping her tea. "He knew they favored Anna. He hated it, but he believed you'd find your way, and that's why he left you everything." I touched the photo carefully, the worn edges soft beneath my fingertips. He had tried to protect me, not just with money, but with faith. And even though they'd taken the assets, they couldn't erase the gift entirely. Because the real inheritance, it wasn't the trust account, it was the truth. It was the quiet voice inside me that finally learned how to speak clearly, loudly, without apology. I got promoted this fall, senior analyst. My boss said it was overdue. I just smiled. No one needed to know the storm I'd walked through to get there. I also started sketching again. Not for anyone else, just for me. I framed one of my drawings in the hallway of my apartment. A little girl holding an umbrella made of coins, standing beneath a storm cloud. Underneath it, I wrote, "Sometimes the rain was meant to wash them away. This was my life now, not picture perfect, not festive or filtered, but real, rooted, mine." And that's the thing people don't tell you about family betrayal. It doesn't always come with screaming matches or dramatic exits. Sometimes it's quiet, passive, sugar-coated with tradition and smoothed over with silence. But when you finally name it, when you stop begging to be chosen, you start choosing yourself. And that changes everything. So here's my message to anyone who's ever been the forgotten sibling, the one left out, the quiet support system that no one clapped for. You're not invisible. You're just not convenient. And when inconvenient people start telling the truth, everything changes. Sometimes the best revenge isn't blowing things up. Sometimes it's rebuilding without them. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, tell your story in the comments. You're not alone, and your voice matters. Like, subscribe and share if you believe real love doesn't ask you to shrink.